Is the pandemic a chance to build a better world? A global crisis can bring about great suffering and hardship, but it can also inspire us to come together and make positive change. As we grapple with the challenges of COVID-19, we may be wondering if this is an opportunity to build a world that is more equitable, sustainable, and resilient. Some people believe that the pandemic has exposed the weaknesses and inequalities of our societies and that it is a chance to create something better. Others argue that we should focus on returning to normalcy as quickly as possible and that any changes should be incremental. What do you think? Is the pandemic a chance to build a better world, or should we simply try to get back to the way things were? Let's explore these questions and more in this video. The pandemic has drastically changed the world in ways that we could never have imagined. It has affected nearly every aspect of our lives, from the way we work and learn to the way we socialize and entertain ourselves. One of the most obvious changes has been the impact on global economies. Many businesses have been forced to shut down or significantly reduce their operations, leading to widespread unemployment and financial insecurity. The pandemic has also exposed the vulnerabilities of our supply chains, as we have seen shortages of essential items such as personal protective equipment and toilet paper. But the changes caused by the pandemic go beyond economic impacts. It has also highlighted the need for stronger healthcare systems, as we have seen the devastating consequences of inadequate resources and infrastructure. The pandemic has also brought about a greater appreciation for the essential workers who continue to serve us, from healthcare professionals to grocery store clerks. On a personal level, the pandemic has forced us to adapt to a new way of life. We have had to learn how to work and attend school from home, and many of us have had to find new ways to stay connected with loved ones. It has also made us more aware of the importance of good hygiene and the role that we all play in preventing the spread of disease. What actions are we taking today that will shape our generation? As we navigate the challenges of the pandemic, it's important to consider the long-term impacts of our choices. Will the decisions we make today lead to a better tomorrow, or will they have unintended consequences? One way that we can shape our future is through the way we respond to the pandemic. Do we prioritize the health and well-being of our communities, or do we prioritize economic interests? How we choose to support one another during this crisis will have a lasting impact on our societies. But the pandemic is just one example of the many ways in which our actions today will shape our generation. The choices we make in terms of how we consume, how we treat the environment, and how we interact with one another will all have a lasting impact. It can be overwhelming to think about the weight of our decisions, but it's important to remember that every action, no matter how small, can make a difference. By being mindful of the impact of our choices, we can work towards creating a future that is more sustainable, equitable, and resilient. It is time to consider the historical impact of this crisis. We are living through a defining moment in history, and the actions we take today will be remembered for generations to come. As we look back on past pandemics and global crises, we see that they have often led to great progress and innovation. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 led to advances in healthcare and public health, while the economic downturn of the Great Depression spurred the creation of important social safety nets. This current crisis presents us with an opportunity to make positive change. We can choose to come together and support one another to find innovative solutions to our problems and to build a world that is more equitable, sustainable, and resilient. It can be easy to get caught up in the negativity and fear of the present moment, but it's important to remember that we have the power to shape our future. Let's use this crisis as an opportunity to create a better world for ourselves and for future generations. 2020 has exposed economic, environmental, and societal weaknesses that have been lurking beneath the surface for far too long. The pandemic has highlighted the vulnerabilities of our globalized economy, as we have seen disruptions in supply chains and the devastating impact on small businesses. The environmental impacts of the pandemic have also been stark. As global travel and transportation have decreased, we have seen a temporary reduction in carbon emissions, but the pandemic has also led to the destruction of natural habitats and the exploitation of resources. Societally, the pandemic has exposed the inequalities that exist in our societies. It has disproportionately affected marginalized communities and exposed the lack of access to healthcare and other essential resources for many people. The events of 2020 have been a wake-up call, reminding us that we can no longer ignore these weaknesses. It is time to take action and address the underlying issues that have been laid bare by the pandemic. We have a chance to create a better, more resilient world, but it will require all of us to work together and make the necessary changes. The pandemic has shown that we can act quickly and adapt our lives when faced with a global crisis. When the pandemic first hit, many of us were uncertain about what the future would hold. But as the months have passed, we have seen incredible feats of innovation and resilience. From the rapid development of vaccines to the widespread adoption of remote work and online learning, we have proven that we are capable of adapting to new challenges and finding creative solutions. The pandemic has also brought about a greater sense of community and solidarity. We have seen people coming together to support one another and to help those in need. From volunteering at food banks to checking in on neighbors, we have seen the best of humanity during these difficult times. It's important to remember that while the pandemic has brought about great suffering and hardship, it has also shown us that we are capable of coming together and making positive change. We have the power to shape our future and to create a better world for ourselves and for future generations. The recovery from the pandemic is an opportunity to build a better world. As we begin to emerge from the crisis, we have a chance to reflect on what we have learned and how we can create a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient future. This is not a time to simply return to the way things were before the pandemic. Instead, it is a chance to take stock of the weaknesses that have been exposed and to make the necessary changes to address them. A vaccine provides hope that we can eventually return to some sense of normalcy, but there is no vaccine for the planet, and nature needs our support now more than ever. We have the power to shape the future of the planet, and it is up to us to make the necessary changes. By coming together and working towards a shared vision of a more sustainable and resilient world, we can create a brighter future for all. The pandemic has highlighted the need for a great reset or restructuring of systems in order to build a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient world. As we begin to emerge from the crisis, it is clear that we cannot simply return to the way things were before. We have a chance to take stock of the weaknesses that have been exposed and to make the necessary changes to address them. This may mean rethinking our economic systems to prioritize the well-being of people and the planet. It may also mean investing in healthcare and social services and ensuring that everyone has access to essential resources. Trust must be built between the private sector and the public sector in order to facilitate change and build a better world. The private sector has a vital role to play in driving innovation and supporting economic growth. But it is also important that they operate in a way that is socially and environmentally responsible. The public sector, on the other hand, has a responsibility to represent the interests of the people and to ensure that the needs of the most vulnerable are met. In order to build a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient world, it is essential that the private sector and the public sector work together. This may mean finding new ways to collaborate and to build trust, but the potential benefits are enormous. By coming together and finding common ground, we can create a brighter future for all. Stakeholder capitalism, which prioritizes people, planet, prosperity, and institutions over profit, could be a solution to the challenges that we face. It is a shift away from the traditional model of shareholder capitalism, which focuses solely on maximizing profits for shareholders. Under stakeholder capitalism, businesses are held accountable to a broader set of stakeholders, including employees, customers, communities, and the environment. This means that they are encouraged to consider the long-term impact of their actions and to operate in a socially and environmentally responsible way. There is a need to rebuild our relationship with nature for the survival of humanity and the planet. The pandemic has shown us the consequences of ignoring the health of our planet and the importance of protecting natural habitats. As we begin to emerge from the crisis, it is essential that we prioritize the well-being of the planet and take action to protect it. This may mean investing in renewable energy, supporting sustainable practices, and preserving natural habitats. But it is not just about protecting the environment for its own sake. Our relationship with nature is fundamental to our own survival. We rely on the natural world for food, shelter, and other essential resources. By taking care of the planet, we're taking care of ourselves. Rebuilding our relationship with nature will require a collective effort, and it will not be easy. But the potential benefits are enormous, and it is essential for the survival of humanity and the planet. Let's use this moment as an opportunity to make a positive difference and to create a better world for ourselves and for future generations. It is important for diverse voices to come together and find solutions to the challenges we face. The pandemic has exposed the inequalities that exist in our societies, and it is essential that we work towards creating a more equitable and inclusive world. This means bringing together people from different backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives to share ideas and to find common ground. By listening to and learning from one another, we can create more innovative and effective solutions to the problems that we face. It is also important that we recognize the importance of diversity and inclusivity in decision-making processes. By ensuring that diverse voices are represented at the table, we can create solutions that are more representative of the needs of the community. It will not be easy to bring diverse voices together, but the potential benefits are enormous. By coming together and working towards a shared vision, we can create a more sustainable, equitable, and resilient world for all. Thank you for watching another episode of Conspiracy or Reality. We hope that this video has helped you to think critically about the topic at hand and to question whether the conventional wisdom is really what it seems. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and join us on our journey to uncover the truth about the world around us. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay curious and keep questioning.